Welcome back to the Dissatisfied Podcast. I am Rochelle.
And I'm Monica.
We're sisters.
We are.
So today's podcast is going to be very interesting. I think you're going to like it. Monica is going to talk about some strange happenings next door in the duplex she lives in. And these stories happened in 2024, so not too long ago. But I'm just going to hand you the reins, Monica, and you can start giving us the lowdown.
All right. Sounds good. So just cutting to the chase, unit came available. I do the interviews. Had to be springtime. All through the interviews, I'm like, in my head, don't like this person, don't like that person. Came across this young man who brought his mom. And I was like, in my head, I knew, well, I think I'd like him to be my neighbor. And because they would have been my neighbor, we share a laundry room. So ended up calling them. They accepted the offer. Moving in, I talked to him. I was like, yeah, good choice. Good kid. Parents are there. Really nice people.
He was like 20 something.
24.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So cut to, late spring now. Still cool outside. I'm in my apartment watching TV. It's around 8 o'clock at night. And I'm hearing voices outside. Like a guy, a girl, and a dog. And then my neighbor's voice. I'm like, oh, it's good. Finally.
So you heard like a total of 3 people and then a dog.
Well, yeah. I was like, oh, he's having people over. That's great. Oh, he was courteous enough not to let them in the house with the dog since we're a no pets kind of living situation. So unmute the TV, watching again, still hearing them chit-chatting. And again, I didn't want to be the old lady neighbor who comes out, you little whippersnapper, what are you doing? It's 8 o'clock at night. You're being too loud. So I'm just sitting there. I can still hear him. Got my TV up. I get a text from, there are 2 neighbors across the way who've been there for like 4 to 5 years. And I, of course, have everybody's number. And she texts and she's like, hey, just wanting to know if you know what's wrong with your neighbor. I was like, I reread it. I'm like, what is she talking about? I'm like, I literally texted back. I'm not sure. I think he has people over. And she goes, no, he's kind of leaning out his screen door, just chit-chatting. And I texted back, there's no one there but him. And she said, yes. So I got a pit in my stomach, weird feeling. I was like, okay, what is going on? So I completely turned the TV off. And I go up to my front door and I'm just listening. And I'm hearing voices, plural. I'm hearing a man. I'm hearing a woman. I am hearing a dog bark. So I text the neighbor girl again. I'm like, okay, so seriously, it's just him. And she responded back, yes. So I put my coat on. I knew right then and there I had to go figure out what was going on. But I also knew that for some reason in me, I knew if I just casually opened the door and walked over there, he would shut down. He would shut the door. He would not respond. So I secretly unlocked my inner door, open it very quietly. My porch light is not on. I've got my hand on the screen door and other hand on the porch light. And I'm going to flip the light and open the door really quick and poke my head out and look left because that's where he would be sticking out of his door. I did just that. And I caught him, just as the neighbor said, leaning out the door, shirtless, had pants on. Just him. And just quick visual, I see that, and I see papers in the front yard.
Like just torn up papers or?
Yeah, everything. Books, papers, pamphlets, a whole bunch of stuff. But remember, what would that be? 30, 40 feet away?
Oh gosh, not even that.
No?
Maybe 20.
Okay. So anyway, but I just did it real quick and I ducked back into my place. So I texted the neighbors again and I said, hey guys, if you could keep an eye out, I'm going to go attempt to talk to him. And both of them, a guy and a girl, they both responded and were like, yes, we will be watching. So I literally had my phone on the ready for 911 just in case. And I walked out at a curve, like out into his front yard so that I could be 5 to 6 feet away from the door. And I can see in through his screen door, and he's sitting on the couch, just staring at the wall. Like his left side profile is what I see. And I just am shouting his first name and asking, can I help you? Can I help you?
So was his screen, it was just his screen door. So his door is kind of open still. It was just the screen door?
Correct. His front door is open. So, and I'm like very loudly saying his name. Can I help you? Are you okay? Do you need help? All this stuff, while knowing it's just weird. I knew he would not hurt me. But also too, I was scared because, voices, just.
Well, yeah, because it was
scary.
freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly approaching the door, and he just turns to the left and looks at me. Just dead faced, soulless looking eyes. I kept approaching the door because I knew at that moment, I was like, he needs help. In my head, literally came out the words, he needs help. I didn't know how to help him, but I was going to. So I actually got to the front door, the screen door, and I opened it a crack, and I looked directly at him, and I was like, I said his name and my name. Hey, I'm your neighbor. I'm here to help you. Is there anyone that I can call for you? What's going on? And he immediately says, you need to call my doctor. So I was like, okay, this is a first. Like, okay. And I just was agreeing. I'm like, do you have his number? He got up from the couch, goes to another couch over by where his phone was, and grabs his phone. He looks at me. He's like, it's dead. And I go, hold on, let me get you a charger. I had to go over to the neighbors and grab an iPhone charger. And we got his phone charged up. So I'm in the house now. I'm standing right in front of him. And I do still feel the presence of something not good. But also, too, knowing, because I pray and because I believe, that nothing was going to happen. Nothing.
That's because, let's just interject this, he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. So it's because you carry the presence of Christ in you.
100%. Yeah.
But go on.
I don't know that anyone else would have done it if they weren't, walking with God. So
right.
I'm in there, and he finally was able to pop up the screen, and I got his doctor's number, and I called, voicemail, left it, looked right at him again and said, let's call your mom or your dad. And he goes, yeah. So called the mom. She picks up. I told her what was going on, and she goes, Monica, call 911. And my heart sank because I was like, okay, something's wrong, but it's really wrong. And they know, like, something's up. And I asked her, I'm like, what's going on? She's like, you need to call the psych ward at Carl Health. I was like, okay, I will let them know that's where you want them to go. And she said, thank you. They were in Alabama, so that's why they couldn't just come to take care of the situation. So I did just that. I walked over to the other neighbor's house and called 911 from there. They were on their way. So I walked back and told the neighbor kid, could you put a shirt on and some socks, maybe a hoodie, grab a few things. Are there any books you like? And he was getting excited because I said, you're going to go see your doctor at Carl Health. And his face and changed, and his demeanor changed. He was happy. He was excited. So he goes out of my sight back into his bedroom, I'm hoping. And at the same time, too, you're still praying the whole time thinking, okay, I don't think he has a gun, but what if he has a gun? Little things like that are coming up. So it seemed like an eternity that it was taking him, but he came out head to toe, hoodie, socks, backpack, ready to go.
He was ready to get out of there.
Comes right up to the screen door. He's inside, I'm outside, and just stands there and go, are they here yet?
Yeah.
I open the door. I'm like, if you want to come out, you can, or you can stay in there. They're on their way. But remember, at this time, though, by the way, 2 cop cars, unannounced, meaning no lights, no sirens, had pulled up, gotten out, and one of the big guys was behind me asking me questions about, does he have a gun? Does he have any weapons? I'm like, I don't know, but I was in there. I felt safe. I don't think he's going to do anything. He's not harming himself, etc. And then finally, the ambulance pulled up, and a really nice young lady got out and started asking me the questions and phone numbers of people. And So I gave her all the information I had, and she's the one who finally opened the screen door and said his name, and he got excited. And she's like, "Do you want to go?" And basically walked him over and got him up in the ambulance, and away they went.
Okay, and then let's rewind just a little bit to the papers that you saw strewn in the yard. When did you notice what they were?
Well, very soon thereafter, when I had made that curvature round to go see inside the door, I'm in the yard where the papers are. And as I'm walking up closer and closer saying, "How can I help you? Do you need help?" I'm noticing pages from a Bible. I'm noticing Christian pamphlets. A miniature Bible was actually out there. A whole bunch of religious, I guess,
Right.
or Christian-based things, because...
But actual torn Bible verses that he had torn out of a Bible.
Torn pages.
And tore them up and threw them out.
Now, precursor to, this young gentleman was one of the leaders in his youth group at his church. His parents, when they're in the town, members of this church. A lot of their family lived in Alabama, though, so they went there a lot.
And now let's fast forward just a little bit, that once you connected with his mom, she explained to you what he is diagnosed with.
No, she did not.
She didn't?
No, it was, 2-3 days after the whole situation, I got a phone call from the father.
Oh, okay.
Where he asked if he could come talk to me face to face. And we did just that outside underneath my awning. It was kind of raining. I had my garage door open and we started chatting. And that's when he told me that his son had been suffering from schizophrenia for years, plural. He had been doing really, really good on medicine, all of his medications, and he had come to his parents requesting to move out and make it on his own again, and because apparently he had tried it before. And that's when the parents were backing him on it. Apparently the dad told me that they had spoken with him and said, "You need to tell Monica your past, what's going on. She's your neighbor, so she can help you if you need anything, etc." He never did that, so I had no clue until the dad's talking to me after everything. And then come to find out, there is, like, the dad was telling me several stories, but the one that stood out was, at one point they couldn't find him. He had left the house. It was very frigid and cold outside. His coat, his shoes, everything was in the home, but he's gone. They couldn't find him. They get a phone call from a neighbor that was like 2-3 miles away, lived on a lake, that had just pulled their son out of the lake.
Was this when he was younger?
Probably early 20s, just a couple years prior to this episode.
Yeah. So a young man who is literally fighting demons.
Oh, hands down.
And, it's not a coincidence. Like, we can check it up to like, oh, well, that's just mental illness. That's why there's torn Bible verses on the ground. No, there's a spiritual component to many, many mental issues.
I agree too. And I just want to touch base too on medication. I'm not a fan, right? Some things I've been through, which we'll touch base on, I'm sure, soon enough. But, I always talk bad about prescribed medication, synthetic, man-made in a lab type of things. In this scenario, I do wonder, because that type of affliction apparently was controlled by the psychotropics that he was on, the drugs that he was on.
I like to say masked,
Okay.
Like certain things will just be masked and maybe subdued a little bit.
But here's what's the situation then there where, and this is how I think it was, where they're on the medication, they feel solid, they feel like they're rolling straight, they can do it all, so now I don't need the medicine.
Right.
Yeah, and they stop taking it and everything goes to hell.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole lot of stuff we could talk about when it comes to prescription medications, especially when it comes to the mental side of things. I mean, even look at the commercials, right? So for a medication that's supposed to help with your depression, a side effect could be that it will increase your thoughts of suicide.
Right. Yeah.
So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
One of the side effects for an antidepressant is that it will cause suicidal thoughts. Okay.
Well,
All right. That makes sense.
And the reality is, Jesus died to give us life and life to the full. That's what the Bible says, life abundantly. So I'm not saying that there's never a time that God wouldn't use medicine to maybe help somebody get over a hump or maybe help them in their healing process. I'm not going to say that.
But there has to be more divine intervention on behalf of human beings working through God, with God, right? To help someone in this type of situation.
I was just going to say that God, I don't think that the Lord would necessarily want us on those types of medications, especially when you look into them and look at the side effects that they cause.
Well, how does his psychotic break and everything that I saw and his multiple voices, because he was not on his medication.
Right. In my personal belief as a Christian, I believe that he needs deliverance. We know from scripture and from personal experiences that people can be oppressed and possessed by demons.
Yes.
It's a reality.
I've seen it. Yeah.
And that's why you have people like, I follow this guy. His name's Father Dan Rehill, and he's a priest and he's an exorcist, a modern day exorcist. He actually was just on the Sean Ryan show, and you can find him on YouTube. Go to YouTube, look him up. Dan Rehill, Reehil, I think. But anyway, he has a ton of modern day stories of exorcisms that he's performed on people, like of all walks of life. And the stories are fascinating. But anyway, people are still casting demons out.
Just like Jesus did.
Right. Just like Jesus did. I want to read a little bit of this that I found on schizophrenia. If you go and you start looking up a bunch of information and reading, papers and research on schizophrenia, one thing that is consistent is that they say that the causes of it are unknown. And even if you're reading something that seems to be giving you a cause, you'll notice the language that's used, and they use a lot of this type of language. Maybe, might be, could possibly be. You'll read that throughout all the research for schizophrenia.
Masking it?
Well, because they don't know. They really don't know what causes it.
Yeah.
And then I was looking up some stuff, and I came across this article on PubMed, and it's a government website. It's actually part of the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health. And I came across this article, and, I know that anybody, I think in the medical field, if you have a license, you can get on there and write stuff. But this is the article I came across. It talks about schizophrenia, about how there's really no known cause for it. It talks about the symptoms, how there's delusions and hallucinations, subjective psychological pain. The most common delusion types are people that say my feelings and movements are controlled by others. People say they put thoughts in my head that are not mine, and then lots of hallucinations. But this is what this article says. It says one approach to this hallucination problem is to consider the possibility of a demonic world. Demons are unseen creatures that are believed to exist in all major religions and have the power to possess humans and control their body. Demonic possession can manifest with a range of bizarre behaviors which could be interpreted as a number of different psychotic disorders with delusions and hallucinations. The hallucination in schizophrenia may therefore be an illusion, a false interpretation of a real sensory image formed by demons. And then this person actually went on to say, a local faith healer in our region helps the patients with schizophrenia. His method of treatment seems to be successful because his patients become symptom-free after about 3 months. Therefore, it would be useful for medical professions to work together with faith healers to define better treatment pathways for schizophrenia.
Amen.
So I don't think we can ignore the connection between something like schizophrenia and demonic possession.
No, I fully believe there's a demonic realm right here, right now. I fight it daily. So I'm just strong in the Lord.
Yeah.
That I'm not schizophrenic.
Because you can recognize, and not that we never have bad days, but we can kind of recognize and sense and discern when something is demonic coming against us.
Correct.
but I want to go to Luke chapter 8 too. So Luke chapter 8 tells the story of Jesus and a demon-possessed man. So let's start in verse 27. As Jesus was climbing out of the boat, a man who was possessed by demons came out to meet him. For a long time, he had been homeless and naked, living in the tombs outside the town. As soon as he saw Jesus, he shrieked and fell down in front of him. Then he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Please, I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had already commanded the evil spirit to come out of him. This spirit had often taken control of the man. Even when he was placed under guard and put in chains and shackles, he simply broke them and rushed out into the wilderness, completely under the demon's power. Jesus demanded, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, for he was filled with many demons. The demons kept begging Jesus not to send them into the bottomless pit. And if you're interested to read the rest of that chapter, it's Luke chapter 8. But this is a clue that it is possible for people to be possessed by multiple demons. And I think that's why you were hearing clearly different voices.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say Jesus and I, went against the Legion. So
Yeah.
For real, there's no other physical human being was there besides my neighbor, besides that kid. His voice was the voice of demons.
And
plural.
it wasn't like you were sitting there thinking that it sounded weird. It sounded like clearly distinct,
a man,
different voices.
a girl, a guy, and a dog. Straight up, just a dog, like a barking dog that, not an evil barking dog. A dog was maybe just chilling next to his owners, listening to them talk, and every once in a while he wanted attention.
Yeah, he was
like,
happy to be there.
It was so weird. Ugh.
Yeah. And we're not experts. Like we're not claiming to have all the answers, but we do have real life experiences with some things that have opened our eyes to lots of the spiritual realm.
Well, I'm saying too, in my case, I think the word discernment is right. And I didn't think of it at the time, but something within me knew I would be okay. And at the same time, God knew that young man needed help. And I needed to do something about it.
And thank God you were there to help him.
I agree.
Because honestly, who knows what could have happened? A lot of people in that state either harm themselves or harm someone else.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you were there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now talk about how you thought he had a roommate, but you actually...
An imaginary roommate is what I thought.
Yeah.
So prior to all this, he and I were talking one day and I said, it's fine if you need to get a roommate, to help with the bills and stuff. And he said, great. So anyway, at one point I was talking to him. I was like, did you end up getting a roommate? And his response was, yeah, his name is, and it was the same name as him. And in my head, I thought, well, that's weird. So then when everything went down with the voices and the weird thing that happened that one night, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was an imaginary roommate.
Right.
Oh no. I remember even telling the other neighbors that. I'm like, oh no, imaginary roommate. So cut to, I'm going to say 2 weeks after that event, I'm pulling up from work and I'm looking over and the two neighbors from across the way are talking to this really tall looking kid outside of that unit. And I'm like, who is that person? Why are my neighbors talking? Why are they talking? And I'm pulling up and I'm looking. It is a young man that I had worked with from 2018 to 2020 at the Olive Garden.
Who had a similar name.
Correct. Who had a very similar, close in the sound of the name of the other young kid. I pull up, I roll down my window, I screamed his name. He looked over, he's like, what? I was like, hold on, let me get in the garage. Came out, gave him a big hug. Now remember too, I worked with this guy at the Olive Garden. Cut to the end of 2022 into the beginning of 2023. I had a seasonal job at the Room Place back in the day. Mind you, when I walked in to start that job, who do I see? This young man.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, again now, 2024, I'm pulling up and I see him again. I'm like, this is just unbelievable. I think this is amazing. This is great. I don't have to worry about renting the place out again.
That was a relief.
Yeah. So get to chatting with him. Come to find out, yeah, the other kid had put up an ad on, I forget where. My friend answered it, had been living there for like a month. I didn't even know it. Anyway, so now it's like summer, early summer, and I get a phone call from a number. And again, this is God too, because as you well know, with cell phones, you can see if someone's in your phone book, you're going to see who it is. It was a number I did not recognize, and I picked it up, which I never do.
Right. I never pick up numbers I don't know.
And I hear sobbing, and it's a woman. And I wait instead of hanging up like any normal person would. And I hear her go, Sean is
You want me to?
dead.
Yeah. Sean is dead.
And and that is my friend. So it's hard for me to talk about, but I'll cry anyway because people cry and talk all the time.
Well, and it's okay to cry. Like when tragedy and horrible things happen, it's okay to shed a tear. Like that's what's called compassion and, emotions. It's okay. And this woman, it was his grandma.
Mm-hmm, who basically helped raise him.
And
she was just in pieces. So this is like literally, I used to get to work really, really early and park in a parking lot, smoke a cigarette, which I don't smoke, is just so
anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. But so I was smoking a cigarette, playing a game on my phone, and got that phone call. I went over to my job and I told them this situation. They had found him in the duplex, and that I needed to go over there, and because the family was coming over, all this stuff.
But how did his grandma would talk to him every single day?
Correct. And hadn't heard from him in like 3 or 4 days, something like that. It wasn't yet a week. But and I was texting him back and forth there too. And one of my last texts to him was in regards to rent. I had yet to receive it. It was already the 5th day of the month. So maybe this is early July. Either way, I don't remember the time frame.
But she's the one she decided to come check on him because she was so used to talking to him every day. Mm-hmm. And after several days of not hearing from him,
she's the one who found him
or getting responses. She went to the duplex. Did she have a key?
Yeah, he had given her a key.
So she had a key.
Yeah.
And the poor woman, she's the one who went in and found him.
Yeah, and called by the time I got there, the body had already been removed. His mom and dad actually live up in Wisconsin. So it was a big kind of back and forth with everybody. And they came and got a few things out of the duplex. I had to go over, and it threw me off because
this is the really, really devastating part.
Mm-hmm. So his bedroom was actually the one in the very back of the duplex, and there was just tons of clothes piled up in the corner, and there was just a bed and a box spring and on the floor, and just dirty, not like filthy dirty, but just, you need to pick up, that kind of stuff. So I'm initially just walking the duplex to see what all needs to be done. And I go into the front, what was considered the front bedroom, and hundreds of plastic, 1.75 liters, the big jugs of every alcohol, empty in that room. Gin, tequila, whiskey, rum, vodka, everything. And Tampico juice things, couple of things, 2-liter sodas. But so alcoholism. And I knew he was a recovering alcoholic, doing really, really well. Was going back to school at ICC, was holding down his jobs, had just got a really cool 1970s like fixer-upper car that was going to be really, really, really cool. And he was really just moving forward. And I was shocked. I stood in that room and just took it in. I was just like, wow.
Well, and there's again, with many things, traumatic things, with the death, you can just feel the darkness. And I didn't see all that stuff, but standing there knowing that this man had died, literally drank himself to death.
And that's what it was. Yeah.
And seeing all of those empty bottles.
Oh, I was just silent tears, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. Like crying inside, but literally flowing tears. But I wasn't making a sound. It was just in my gut about how awful.
Yeah, because he was only 30 something.
Oh, you're right. 31 or 32.
Yeah, he was young, and we don't know if there was something that happened that was like a trigger for him to start drinking again or whatever. But
had I have known, I would have called someone or asked for his sponsor or done something, because I vividly remember a conversation with him at the room place, because we were on the same shift and we were talking, and he was like, yeah, my sponsor's awesome. He's really been helping me. Had I have known anything, I would have reached out. Yeah. I would have tried to do something. Now, I'm not a counselor at all. I could have been there to help for sure. And had I have had a number of a counselor, whoever I needed to call, I would have helped him, because he was such an incredible. He had a stutter, but it's like you didn't hear it when he started talking because of how kind he was.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's really sad, and it makes you wonder too. He spent days by himself in the duplex, drinking himself to death. And that's what the enemy wants to do with all of us. Just keep this in mind, that if he can isolate you, in your depression, in your anxiety, in your doubt, in your loneliness, the biggest thing he tries to do in our lives when we struggle with those things is to isolate us, because then we are more tempted to listen to and believe his demonic lies about who we are and whose we are.
And that's why it's okay to cry on a podcast, because you can't be afraid to show emotion. You can't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. And I'm, and this is part of the podcast, is that we don't want to be fake. We don't want to put on masks. We don't want to pretend that we're people we're not. We want to try to keep it as real as possible, because I think it's a big problem in the world, especially with social media, AI, social media. Everybody's looking great all the time, and their lives look perfect. And
that's what I was just thinking. You want to put this on video too?
Yeah, we will.
So be ready, everyone.
I mean, we might do our hair.
I'm not going to do nothing.
Well, that's fine. I will. My point is that people actually, when I say masks, I don't necessarily mean that you're wearing makeup. I mean that you're pretending to be someone that you're not,
right?
So that people view you in a specific way. And somebody like him who died in the duplex, well, both of them, but I don't know what my point is.
Just that there was a front, there was a mask, a cover brought on by a demon, had to have been, hiding what that demon was doing to that person. You see what I'm saying? Like, how I feel about it is just that the person I knew, the person I spoke to at the jobs that I had with him, was, even though I knew he had a problem with alcohol, right? But then I knew he had been in recovery. He was like 2-3 years sober, he had told me. Had a great sponsor, all this stuff. So what you're seeing there, I think, is real. But was that was a false?
Well, that's what we've talked about regarding Rich, especially, is some people who struggle with like substance abuse, addictions, depression. There are times where it's their real selves. They want to live a good life. They want to be free. People don't want to be addicted to stuff.
Agreed. Yeah, you're right.
That's not it. It's a demonic thing. Alcoholism, porn addiction, drug addiction. It's demonic. It ruins your life.
Correct. Yeah, it does.
So anyway, it's pretty wild that in the span of 6 months, was it about 6 months?
Yeah, because there was a short little snippet before even the one schizophrenic of an older gentleman who had been there for 4 years, passing away due to physical illness. Nothing mental, but a physical illness. He passed away in the bathroom in that duplex. So that being said, Rochelle and I, having faith, I asked Rochelle to come over and pray.
Yeah.
After everything that had happened, to pray and bless this duplex, because wow.
I brought some oil
that
to
was
anoint
from
the
Jerusalem.
doorpost.
Right?
Yeah. It came from Israel.
We prayed and prayed, and I felt at that moment of praying and walking that duplex and blessing the doorways and everything that we needed to do, I felt a weight lifted, a darkness removed from that duplex.
Yeah, because it like I said, it's pretty crazy that in the span of 6 months, the one guy dies who had been living there.
Yep.
And then you get
a schizophrenic,
and
then an alcoholic.
And then an alcoholic. And both, well, the schizophrenic didn't die, thankfully.
Correct. No.
But the alcoholic, a few months after that, is found dead from drinking himself to death.
Ooh, so yeah, strange happenings next door indeed.
Yes. And we want to give you a phone number to anybody who's listening. If you struggle with any kind of substance abuse, if you feel like you need some help mentally, there's a national helpline. It's 1-800-662-HELP. 1-800-662-4357.
And I encourage you to reach out. And if you can't reach out to family and friends, reach out to someone you don't know at that number. They're trained to talk you through the right things.
Right. And they can lead you to somewhere or someone that can help you.
That's correct.
And don't forget to have faith. So in 2 Timothy 1, verse 7, this is what it says. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind." That is what God gives us. So anything else that's coming against you that doesn't contain those 3 things is not of God.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So one more time, that number is 1-800-662-HELP. And you can call that if you need help with any kind of substance abuse, any kind of mental help that you might need. And we thank God for you. We bless you. Thanks for listening.